Hey everybody, I think I am officially live, which is awesome. See a couple of folks on. I just literally tweeted out a link to everybody to hop on as well. I see a couple more people hopping on, which is awesome. But welcome to what we're calling a few email minutes on. The acronym is very palatable. It's called AFEMO. Uh, where we're gonna every other Wednesday or every other Monday rather, we're gonna hop on 12:30 Eastern time and spend about 15 minutes talking about email topics that we've been discussing in the Litmus marketing team, that we've seen on the Email Geek Slack channel, in the wider email community, and just go over what that is. Address any questions some people might have about that topic. So this week, to kick things off, we're going to be spending a few email minutes on BIMI. So let's dig into it and talk a little bit about BIMI. I'm gonna go ahead and switch my source here. You should see my screen here. It's on the Litmus blog, specifically on a blog post that I wrote a little while ago, a couple of years ago when BIMI was first announced. We updated it earlier this year in February with some more recent information about BIMI. But it's titled, "What is BIMI and why should email marketers care?" So for anybody that doesn't know what BIMI is, it's a fun, fun little acronym for brand indicators for message identification. So BIMI essentially is a new proposed standard for, engendering trust with our subscribers. So it's something that would work alongside other, kind of reputation standards, security standards, trust standards like DMARC, DKIM, SPF, things that we all have hopefully set up in our email marketing programs to tell subscribers that we are who we say we are when we're sending those email campaigns. So DMARC, DKIMs, SPF, SPIF, whatever you want to call it, those are three standards that have been around for quite a while at this point that are essentially, records that live on your sending servers. And when you send an email campaign, the email clients, the ISPs, they will look for those records to ensure that you have them up there, that they're configured correctly to help show that you are who you are, to make sure that your emails are actually delivered to the inbox as you want them to be. So it just helps with deliverability, helps with subscribers knowing that your emails can be trusted. Nobody's trying to send in like phishing attempts or anything like that, or spam. And BIMI is like a new layer on top of that. So it isn't quite like a full standard. Not everybody supports it. Um, but it has been getting a little bit of traction over the last year or so. We'll talk about support in a second here, but I guess the first thing to understand is how BIMI works. So to set up BIMI, which again is that brand indicators, which the brand indicator is your logo of your choosing in the subscriber's inbox. You can see the Groupon one here from this example from the BIMI website. So this would be in Yahoo Mail, the app. If you have BIMI correctly set up, then it would pull in your icon, your logo, and just give you a little bit more kind of visual love for your brand inside the inbox. But to do that, you have to have a couple of different things set up for BIMI to work correctly. The first is that you need to make sure that you're using those other authentication protocols like SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, which most people are. If you're using an ESP, then they'll help you with that kind of stuff. Or, you might be using a shared IP or something like that, where that's configured for you on behalf of the ESP. If you're doing homegrown ESP stuff, then hopefully your IT team has all of that stuff set up so that your deliverability is where it should be. But you do want to make sure that you are using SPF, DKIM, and DMARC so that BIMI will actually work because it works in tandem with those protocols. But the main things for marketers really is you need access to your domain name servers, your DNS entries, so that you can add a new entry for BIMI. And then you need an SVG file of your logo or whatever graphic you happen to use for your brand indicator. So nothing really terrible. If you're working in a larger company, you might need to work with your IT team, put in a request to add that new DNS entry for BIMI. You might need to work with your graphics team to get that SVG file for your logo and get it uploaded somewhere, again, on a publicly accessible server. But that's really it, is just those. You're hopefully already using authentication protocols. You set up a new entry on your domain name servers, and then you add this SVG file that you link out to in that entry. So the cool thing about this is that it will give you in the email clients that support it, will give you a little bit of extra real estate visually, so that subscribers will see your logo. They can very quickly, trust that this is an email from you and not somebody trying to spoof you and get their information or get them to do something bad. And it's just a nice little, it's a brand indicator, it's marketing, it's good stuff to have in front of your subscribers. So right now, BIMI it doesn't have wide support, but there are some pretty notable people that are in the pilot program that's currently going on. So Yahoo Mail, AOL Mail, Netscape, Fastmail, which is a great email service that I actually use personally and has been growing a lot over the past couple of years. And then Google, Gmail, which is a huge one. They're all in the BIMI pilot right now. So some subscribers will be seeing the BIMI support here, if they're in that kind of pilot group, that beta group there. And then we have some other folks like Comcast who have announced that they're planning on supporting BIMI. But it's one of those things where I feel like a lot of email client providers, email inbox providers are kind of waiting around to see what kind of traction BIMI does get. If it does, then they'll probably start adding support. But those are some pretty big names: Yahoo Mail, AOL Mail, Fastmail, Google. Netscape is not as big as it once was, but still there. Comcast is planning on support. It'd be cool to see like Outlook, the Outlook clients start adding support for BIMI, which would be kind of neat. But I know they do something similar kind of natively for Outlook, where they will pull in your logo and they have their own kind of brand tools within Outlook that companies can take advantage of. Uh, if you want to learn more, there's this bimi.agari.com, this brand indicators working group, that will give you more information about BIMI. They're kind of the working group behind the protocol. And they're the ones that have pulled in folks like Yahoo and Gmail to get BIMI up and running. But they have a lot of good tools here too. They have a great resource for uh, you know teaching you how to actually set up BIMI. They have a blog with some updates about it. They have this Create BIMI record, which will walk you through what to actually do. It'll give you the tools to make sure that DMARC, DKIM, and SPF are set up, and go through how to do that. But we actually put together a guide too, again in February, about how to set up BIMI for your own brand. So again, another great link. I'll actually put this in the live stream chat here on YouTube, because I think it is a great way to walk through step by step what you have to do to set up BIMI, because that's probably the question most of you are asking yourselves: how do I get BIMI working for my brand, for my domain? And it's relatively easy. Again, like I said, there's really only 3 things you have to do. The first is making sure that DMARC, SPF, and DKIM are all set up on your server. In the case of DMARC, there's a lot of different policies that you can set with DMARC about how your server handles requests for that verification. But if you want to get in the weeds, you have to make sure that your organizational or subdomain policies are set to either quarantine or reject, are 2 options for requests back to that domain, and that your subdomain policy is set to 100%. A lot of people kind of have this set as default anyways, so it probably shouldn't be an issue. But if you need to talk to your IT team and make sure that those policies are set up in those text records, then do that. Then you need to create an SVG file for your logo. An SVG is just an image format that uses vectors. It's scalable. Vectors graphics, I think, is the what those 3 letters stand for. But it's something that can be created in Adobe Illustrator, Figma, Adobe XD, any kind of current modern image application will be able to generate that SVG file for you. So one thing to keep in mind is that BIMI, depending on where that logo is seen across different email clients, it could change what it looks like. So the BIMI website, the BIMI group actually has this great example here where they have this square icon, they have this kind of rounded square or squircle kind of icon, and then the full circular icon here. So that's something you want to keep in mind as you're generating the SVG file, is to make sure that your logo is going to work across those three potential views of your logo. So if you're using text that's really close to the edges, like this BIMI example here, then it's not going to look the greatest when it's shown in the circle. So you want to kind of give enough white space around your logo. Make sure it's going to work across those three different contexts, and then you're essentially just generating the SVG code, which will spit out a file that has the file extension .svg. You take that, you upload it to your server somewhere that's publicly accessible, so email clients at Support BIMI can pull that logo in as needed. Then you create your text record. So they actually have, the BIMI working group does have this conversion tool for SVG. So if you do want to make sure that your SVG is compatible with the BIMI spec, you can kind of go through this, and there's a couple of different tools that you can download depending on your platform. There's actually an Adobe Illustrator export script that'll make sure that the SVG file is compatible with BIMI. They make it pretty easy here for you. Then after that, you're going to upload a text file to your domain name servers. So DNS entries are just little text files that live on a server somewhere. So that when an email client is pinging that server, it can see these text files and make sure things are set up correctly. So all you're adding to your DNS file is a simple text file that states a couple of things. So it shows what the domain is that you are using as a sender. For our example, I think we actually have it in here. We use campaigns.litmus.com is our sending domain for our emails. So this is our actual BIMI record down here. And then it has the SVG URL, which is where that logo is hosted, so that the email client knows where to look and pull that in. And then this PEM URL, which right now is optional, but that's where to point to it's called a verified mark certificate of VMC, which is a certificate that's going to be hosted by a company. There's a couple of different companies that allow you to get those certificates set up. But right now it is optional. You don't need to have that certificate set up. But I think somebody did say that in the future, BIMI is probably going to require that. So you might be familiar with DigiCert, is a huge company that does that kind of certification stuff for companies. So you can get that VMC record set up. It's hosted somewhere, and then it's just another URL that you dump in there. So again, the Litmus one, it's really straightforward. You would just enter this as a text file on your domain name server. Most kind of the panels for interacting with your DNS files, your DNS entries on like your hosting service, depending on what you're using. It's usually just a text field that you dump in there and say it's a text record, a TXT record. But this is just saying we're using version 1 of BIMI, so V equals BIMI 1. We have that semicolon. We have the domain is set to https campaigns.litmus.com. And then we link out to that icon, that SVG file, which is litmus-icon.svg. So pretty straightforward. And then you just enter that on your DNS record. Give it a little bit of time to refresh all the domain name server system around the globe. If you want to, speed that up, hopefully you could change your time to live, the TTL setting on your server, a little bit lower. Give it, 24 hours to set up and make sure that's propagated around the world. And then for those pilot programs, Gmail, Yahoo Mail, AOL, they should start pulling in your logo, which is a great thing to show your subscribers you are who you say you are. Gives you a little extra marketing juice in the inbox, and hopefully, keeps your brand top of mind for your subscribers. So I think that's 14 minutes we're at here. I see a couple of people on. If you have any questions about BIMI, now's the time to ask in the chat inside of YouTube. I would be happy to answer them. Or again, you can check out this article here. I'll put the link as well for that first kind of what is BIMI overview that talks about support in the live stream chat. And yeah, it's just a cool new thing that is one of those things. While it's not widely supported, it's so easy to set up for most people that it would make sense to have it set up for your brand. There's the chances are good that it's going to see wider adoption, and it's so easy to set up that why wouldn't you do this for your brand? Some mailboxes already pull in that logo. They might pull in something from Gravatar or something like that, but this gives you control over what is actually displayed in the inbox next to your sender name, your subject line, all that good stuff. So it's just a great way to make that experience exactly what you want it to be. So that's going to do it for a couple of minutes on an email topic. Let me switch back over to me. Here I am. We're going to do this again every other Monday. So next week we're off. I'm actually off the whole week. I'm going to take a little time to rest up, decompress from the last year or so, all the webinars, all the Zoom calls, all the live streams, that good stuff, and be back at it. So not next week, but the week after on Monday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. I am in the outside of Detroit, so I'm on Eastern time. We're going to hop on 15 minutes and talk about another topic. I haven't decided what that topic is. If you have any requests, then hit us up. We're at Limis App on Twitter. I'm at Rodriguez, J on Twitter. That's a good place to interact. And we would love to hear what you want to hear about. And we'll just do this kind of quick lunch and learn in between, bites of your sandwich, or, if you have a little 15 minutes of downtime between coding emails, writing a little bit of copy, testing and litmus, whatever that happens to be, then we'll be here to talk about something fun for email marketers, designers, developers, all that good stuff. So thanks everybody for joining. This will live on YouTube if anybody wants to reference it later on. Anna, thanks so much for hopping on. It's always good to see your face. So yeah, we'll see you not next week, but the following week on Monday, 12:30.